What if I told you that 9 specific animals, raised the right way on a piece of land no bigger than half an acre, could feed your entire family, slash your grocery bill and still leave you with extra to sell at the farmer's market? Today I'm going to walk you through 9 animals that, when combined the right way, can genuinely become profitable for you. Not profitable in some vague, feel-good homesteading sense. I mean real numbers, real pounds of meat, real quarts of milk, real dollars saved every single month. But here's the catch, and it's the reason most backyard homesteads fail before they ever get off the ground. It's not about which animals you pick. It's about how those animals work together. Most people treat livestock like separate little projects. A coop over here, a rabbit hutch over there, a goat pen on the other side of the yard, and they never talk to each other. That's not a homestead. That's a zoo with a feed bill. Stick with me to the end because animal number 9 is the one that ties this entire system together, and skipping it is the single biggest mistake I see people make. Welcome back to Farm Equation, the channel where we break down homesteading, backyard farming, and small-scale livestock into real, usable numbers, not just pretty barn photos. If you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button and tapping the like button because it genuinely helps this channel grow and lets me keep making videos like this one. All right, let's get into it. 9 animals, 1 connected system. Let's build it piece by piece. First up, meat rabbits. The backbone of this whole operation. If you only take 1 animal away from this video, make it this one. Rabbits are, pound for pound, one of the most efficient protein sources you can raise anywhere in the country, urban backyard or rural acreage. Here's the math. A single doe can produce somewhere between 50 and 60 pounds of meat in a single year. Let that sink in. That's more meat than most families buy from the grocery store in the same category over several months, coming from 1 animal that fits in a hutch the size of a filing cabinet. Rabbits have a tiny physical footprint. You don't need acreage, you don't need a barn, you don't need a pond. A stack of hutches against a fence line will do the job just fine. And their reproductive cycle is almost absurdly fast. Kits go from newborn to harvest weight in just 8 to 12 weeks. That means you could theoretically be eating rabbit you raised yourself before summer even ends, starting from spring. Now here's where it gets interesting for your wallet. Rabbits will happily eat garden scraps, dandelions, clover, and comfrey, stuff that's either free or already growing in your yard right now. That alone can cut your feed costs in half compared to relying on store-bought pellets year-round. But the real magic is what comes out the other end. Rabbit manure is what's called cold manure, which means, unlike chicken or cow manure, it won't burn your plants. You can apply it directly to your garden beds without composting it first. It goes straight from the hutch to the soil, building fertility instantly. Quick question for you. Drop it in the comments. Have you ever tried rabbit meat, or is this a totally new idea for you? Next, Coturnix Quail, the secret weapon nobody talks about enough. These little birds are absurdly space efficient. You can raise 50 quail in the same footprint as a single chicken coop. 50, not 5. And they grow up fast. We're talking quail laying nutrient-dense eggs at just 6 weeks of age. Compare that to a standard chicken, which takes months before it lays its first egg, and you start to see why quail have such a devoted following among small space homesteaders. Feed-wise, they're incredibly light eaters. Roughly a pound of feed per bird per month. That's nothing. And remember those garden scraps we talked about with the rabbits? Once your rabbit manure has been boosting your garden's output, you've got even more scraps to funnel toward your quail. The system is already starting to feed itself, without you spending any extra money. If you live in the city, if your HOA won't let you have chickens, if you've got a balcony and a dream, quail might genuinely be your best entry point into raising your own protein. I want to know, how many of you are working with a small space right now? Let's talk heritage dual-purpose chickens, but not the way most people talk about chickens. A lot of new homesteaders go straight for high-production commercial hybrid breeds because they've heard they lay more eggs. Here's the problem. Those breeds are often bred for a factory farm environment, not a backyard system, and they tend to burn out fast and lack the hardiness you actually want. Instead, go heritage. Breeds like Plymouth Rocks, Orpingtons, Australorps, or Rhode Island Reds are hardier, longer-lived, and dual-purpose. meaning they give you both eggs and meat potential. A small flock of just 6 to 8 hens is genuinely enough to provide ample eggs for a family, plus a sustainable breeding pool if you ever want to hatch your own replacements down the line. Here's the profitability piece that most people miss entirely. When you manage heritage birds using rotational grazing or a compost scratch pen, they can forage up to 30% to 50% of their own food. That's food you're not buying. They're out there eating bugs, seeds, and scraps, acting as your pest control crew, all while turning over your compost pile and dropping fertilizer as they go. Think about that for a second. A flock of chickens that's simultaneously handling your pest problem, your compost turning, and a third of your feed bill, just by doing what chickens naturally want to do anyway. Let me ask you this. Are you currently running commercial hybrids? Or have you already made the switch to heritage breeds? Now we're moving into dairy territory, and this is where a lot of people assume you need acreage you simply don't have. Enter the Nigerian Dwarf Goat. These are genuinely tiny animals, standing only about 20 inches tall at the shoulder. But don't let the size fool you. A pair of these micro goats can produce 1 to 2 quarts of milk per day. And it's not just any milk. Nigerian dwarf milk carries an exceptionally high butterfat content, somewhere between 6% and 10%, which is dramatically higher than standard dairy goat breeds. That butterfat content is exactly what makes this milk so incredible for cheese, butter, and homemade soap. Here's the system piece. Nigerian dwarfs are browsers, not grazers. That means instead of just mowing down a lawn like a typical grazing animal, they actively go after brush, weeds, leaves, and bark. In practical terms, that means they're clearing out the overgrown, tangled parts of your property for free. The blackberry brambles, the scrub, the stuff you've been meaning to deal with for years. While simultaneously producing dairy you can turn into real sellable products. A pair of goats doing landscaping and making cheese at the same time. Here's an animal that flies under the radar constantly, and it shouldn't. Muscovy ducks. If your only experience with ducks is the classic mallard-derived quacking duck, Muscovies are going to surprise you. They're quiet. Instead of the loud quacking you're picturing, they actually hiss. That alone makes them a far better fit if you've got close neighbors or live in a suburban setting where a flock of loud quacking ducks would get you a noise complaint. But quiet isn't even their best feature. Muscovy meat is lean, dark red, and frequently compared to veal or roast beef in flavor and texture. A completely different eating experience than what most people associate with duck. Now here's the system integration piece, and it's a big one. Muscovies are master foragers. They can source up to 70% of their entire diet from slugs, ticks, mosquito larvae, and beetles. Think about what that means for your property. Fewer ticks, fewer mosquitoes, fewer garden pests. And there's a bonus most people don't expect. Muscovy hens are highly broody, meaning they'll hatch and raise their own ducklings completely automatically. No incubator, no heat lamp babysitting, the flock maintains and replenishes itself for free. Here's a question for the comments. Has anyone else struggled with tick or mosquito problems on their property? Because this might be the most overlooked solution to that exact issue. Now we get to the animal that doesn't just produce something valuable on its own, it multiplies the value of everything else on this list. Honeybees. Let's start with the direct output, because it's genuinely impressive. A single healthy hive can yield 30 to 60 pounds of honey annually. On top of that, you get bonus byproducts like beeswax, which you can turn into candles, balms, and other value-added products to sell or gift. But the honey isn't even the main event. The real power of a hive is pollination. A single hive can boost your garden's fruit and vegetable yields by 30% to 70%. Read that again. 70%. That's not a rounding error. That's a transformation of your entire garden's output. And remember, this whole system is built on connections. More garden production means more food for your family and more scraps for your rabbits, quail, chickens, goats, and ducks. One hive doesn't just give you honey. It amplifies every single other animal on this list by supercharging the garden that feeds them all. This is the animal almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most low-maintenance protein source on this entire list. Utility pigeons. Breeds like kings or mondanes pair for life. They incubate their own eggs. They feed their own young, called squabs, with zero daily intervention from you. You are not bottle feeding anything. You are not manually turning eggs. You are not bottle feeding anything. The pigeons handle their entire reproductive cycle themselves. A single breeding pair produces 12 to 16 squabs a year, essentially on autopilot. Space and feed requirements are minimal. If you're already stretched thin, pigeons are the low-effort addition that still moves the needle on your food production. Be honest, had you even considered pigeons before? Now we're stepping outside the land-based system entirely and into water. Tilapia, raised right in your backyard. Tilapia are famously forgiving, hardy, and fast-growing. They reach harvest weight of 1 to 1.5 pounds in just 6 to 8 months, which is remarkably fast for a fish. And you don't need a pond to do this. A single 200-gallon stock tank can produce 50 to 75 pounds of clean, healthy fish per year. That's a stock tank you could fit in a corner of your yard, producing serious quantities of protein. Here's where the loop closes beautifully. You can supplement the tilapia's food with duckweed, and you grow that duckweed using nutrients from your rabbit manure. So the rabbits are feeding the fish, indirectly. And in return, the nutrient-dense wastewater from the fish tank becomes an incredible liquid fertilizer for your garden, which, remember, is already being pollinated by your bees and feeding scraps back to your other animals. This is the point in the video where you can really start to see it. It's not 9 separate animals, it's one system, and the fish tank is quietly pulling double duty as both a protein source and a fertilizer factory. Question for you: is backyard aquaculture something you've ever considered, or does raising fish feel like a step too far compared to the other animals on this list? Genuinely curious where people draw that line. And now, animal number 9, the one I told you about at the very beginning. The one that ties this entire system together. American Guinea hogs. Forget everything you know about raising 600-pound commercial swine that need massive amounts of space and grain. American Guinea hogs are small, docile heritage pasture pigs that top out at just 150 to 250 pounds, a size that's perfectly manageable on a half-acre property. Here's why they're the loop closer. These hogs act as the ultimate cleanup crew for your entire system. They get 50% to 70% of their diet simply by grazing pasture, rooting out tough weeds, and eating kitchen scraps, windfall fruit, and this is the part that ties everything together: the excess whey left over from your goat milk production. Think about what that means. Nothing goes to waste. Nothing goes to waste. The whey from your Nigerian Dwarf Goats cheese making doesn't get poured down the drain, it becomes hog feed. The hogs till and clear land naturally, doing the heavy work of land management for free, all while producing premium marbled pork and high-quality lard. This is why I call them the loop closer. Every other animal on this list produces something: meat, eggs, milk, honey, fertilizer, and the guinea hogs mop up whatever's left over and turn it into more food. Without an animal like this at the end of the chain, you're not running a closed system. You're just running 9 separate mini farms that happen to share a fence line. Last question of the video, and I really want your honest answer on this one. Out of all 9 animals, which one surprised you the most? Was it the rabbits, the quail, the pigeons, or the guinea hogs closing the loop? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Before I let you go, I want to cover something just as important as the animals themselves, because knowing what to raise means nothing if your system collapses 6 months in. These are the 4 biggest mistakes that cause small homesteads to fall apart under high feed bills and total burnout. Mistake 1: starting everything at once. Do not buy multiple species simultaneously. It's tempting, I know. You watch a video like this and you want to order rabbits, quail, and chickens all in the same week. Don't. Master one animal for 4 to 6 months before you introduce the next. Give yourself time to actually learn that animal's rhythms before adding complexity. Mistake 2: ignoring the connections. This is the heart of everything we just covered. If your animals aren't actively feeding or fertilizing one another's systems, you're not running a homestead, you're running an expensive zoo. The manure, the scraps, the whey, the duckweed, those connections are where the actual profitability lives. Mistake 3. Choosing animals emotionally. It's easy to fall in love with an animal because it's cute or trendy on social media. Resist that. Every single animal on your property needs to explicitly earn its place through functional yields. Meat, milk, eggs, pest control, fertilizer, something measurable. Mistake 4. Underestimating feed costs. Always crunch the real numbers. Track your actual expenses for at least 3 months before declaring your system efficient. It's easy to assume you're saving money. The only way to know for sure is to write it down. So there it is. 9 animals, 1 connected system, and a half acre of land that can genuinely feed a family and put real dollars back in your pocket. Meat rabbits feeding the garden. Coturnix quail eating the scraps that garden produces. Heritage, dual-purpose chickens, and Muscovy ducks, handling pest control. Nigerian dwarf goats, clearing brush while making dairy. Honeybees supercharging the entire garden's yield. Utility pigeons producing protein on autopilot. Tilapia turning rabbit manure into fish and fish water into fertilizer. And the American Guinea hogs closing the loop by cleaning up everything left behind. If this video gave you a clearer picture of what a truly connected homestead system looks like, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed yet to Farm Equation, now's the time. I've got a lot more of these breakdowns coming. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 9 animals would you start with first? Let me know down in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.